this is the last class for conflict and conciliation. The basically conflict in life in church, and well, we are going to continue how to resolve the conflicts. And as I mentioned last week, there are lots of things we can do for resolving conflicts. But depends on what kind of conflicts we have. We have so many options and choices how to resolve the conflicts. Well, we took a look some methods how to take care of the conflicts. Today we're gonna just continue this. Judicial settlement in court system. So when we have conflicts between people and between organizations or people to organizations, company, we're gonna, one party or both parties, or the police can, or prosecutors, they can sue people, companies, churches, and organizations, and even other countries. And then they're gonna just see in the court, and they can just get the judgment by the judges, or things like that. And for the court system, the settlement of disputes involves aggrieved party to institute. Sorry for the typo. Institute. Oh no, there was a dust. So institute court proceedings against another party. Yeah, one party can sue other parties and they're gonna just see in the court. And in objurgating all matters before them, court systems aim to regulate the resolution of disputes between parties. Why we are making laws? Well, definitely there were verbal agreements and promises in the long time ago, because they didn't have papers or pens or computers. So their words were very important, and they were supposed to have other witnesses, the third parties from the both parties or whatsoever, and then they wanted to follow their agreements. But what if one party break the agreement or law, and then they can just argue or fight even, and then there were leaders in the villages or kill it. Villages and the chiefs or elders, who were just taking care of those kind of conflicts. So when we just see the laws, we can imagine that they made those laws because there were fightings, there were conflicts, there were misunderstandings or discomfortness, or they wouldn't make any laws for that. For example, do not steal others belongings. That which means there were people who were stealing others stuff, and it's still going on. There are lots of thieves, and you can say that lots of people are stealing others stuff. And that's one of the 10 commandments God gave to Moses for Israelites. So why those kind of laws were made? because there were fightings and disputes and arguments and wars. So they just made an agreement, which means let's do not steal others' stuff. What if somebody or a country or a company steal other people's belongings and other states and other organizations, stuff. For example, copyrights. That is we cannot see, but that is right? Copyrights, and products and skills and techniques, all kinds of things. Medicines. Making medicines it doesn't take a lot of money, but for developing a medicine, it takes lots of money, as you know. So we want to just secure that right. I make one thing, very nice pen for the whiteboard. Then it takes like $1 million to develop this pen. This pen price maybe $5 or $3. Let's say $3. But for making this pen, the original price, I think the cost to make one pen must be 50 cents or 30 cents. Depends on how to make it. But for making this pen, I just poured my money on $1 million. What if the other party just sold this is the nice pen and the company just copied it, and sell it like $2 or $3, the same price or a little bit lower price. But this company didn't spend $1 million, but just copied it. Maybe it took just $100,000. Then who would develop? Who would make? R&D, research and development. Who's gonna do that? No one wants to do that. Then, which means there will be no development, no growth. Okay. So I want to just stay here. Somebody make something good. I want to copy it. Okay. Then, who's gonna make new stuff? The first, producers and those people gonna, that's a ridiculous way. Copying is way cheaper. Than developing or making something. So we are making. That's why we made lots of loaves. So when you see the logo, it's kind of thick like this or thicker or whatever. But so as time passes, those loaves got accumulate. It can be accumulated, and we are still making new loaves, or we just abolish some loaves in the past because we don't use it anymore. Okay. So that's what is happening. It is important to secure others' right and my right also. Okay, we wanna secure our rights, or we're gonna lose it. We don't want to lose our rights. Nobody wants to, lose their rights. So there are laws. Because we have laws between people, between countries, between companies. Because we have laws, we want to secure our safety and others' safety. We want to respect others' safety too, because we have laws. So when we have problems with other people or company and countries, we can just apply that law to our conflicts. Okay. Well, there is a war, and that is continuing between Ukraine and Russia, and Russia just invaded Ukraine, and people are thinking that Ukraine will yield some part of its nation, its countries, which is crazy. It's 21st century, but countries are fighting each other and having war each other, and stronger country just steal other countries' land. That's unbelievable, isn't it? Anyway, the disputants, because we have laws for securing our rights and respecting others, we can just not just fighting physically, but we can just sue each other's, and we can just wait for the decisions. But who's gonna follow the decisions? We are supposed to do it, or we're gonna have disadvantages from breaking the laws. That's what's happening to Russia. Russia just broke the law. We have a mutual agreement, and we have laws, international laws, or UN made something. So we are not supposed to attack other countries, but it's happening, and it's happened. It happened, and it's happening right now. So whole lot of countries are just trying to apply the sanctions to Russia, against Russia. So, for example, the Putin or the higher politicians' properties in many other countries, for example, in USA, they just hold their assets, possessions, and belongings, and money, accounts, so they cannot use it for their war. Okay, it's kind of a penalty. So we can decide those kind of things based on what? Laws. Disputants relying on lawyers to file claims on their behalf against the opposing party, and for a judge to make the decision on how to resolve the dispute. So they can just work on their the law activities, and they have to rely on their lawyers. I have no idea what's going on to the law. So if you don't know on the laws, you want to just rely on the lawyers. So they law experts, so they can work for you, and you definitely gonna pay for that. But there are some laws you're gonna win, and then I think the loser's gonna just pay for the lawyers' fees or something. Depends on the situations, not always. But anyways, that is money consuming and time consuming thing. So people, countries, companies, they want to avoid the sues, and so they want to just compromise before they spend a whole lot of money. The court regulates the procedures that parties have to follow. So there are certain procedures. So filing the suit, and got the police reports, file the suit, and they can just think about the court can just think about how they're gonna take care of those cases, okay? And they just assign a judge, depends on their expertise, and then they can just call each parties and lawyers, and they can they're gonna ask guilty or non-guilty, or they say if both parties are saying non-guilty, no guilties, and they're gonna just see the court and dispute. The courts regulates the procedures that parties have to follow. Yes, they are also made to follow a standardized format for collection and presentation of evidence. So they want to just present, the evidence and witnesses as much and as many they can afford. So because third parties and witnesses and proofs and those kind of things are very important at the court for showing that they have no responsibilities on it and they are right or the other party is wrong. Those kind of evidences are very crucial. In addition, after the court, made a decision, you are wrong and you are right, or both are wrong and right, little by little, and then they just, have to pay each other's or something like that. Those things can be happened, and they have right procedures for, for following up the decisions and judgment. In addition, the judicial system expects them to justify their claims and advance their claims on the basis of written submissions, and they can say, "Oh, this is my fault, and this is your fault," and something like that, and they're gonna sign on it, and they can finalize it, hopefully. In criminal matters, if the seriousness of the offense is exceptionally high, the offender may be given a life sentence. For example, oh my goodness, I just saw, a couple of days ago, I think the NBA, the basketball head coach had an interview with reporters, and he said everything is okay, and he said he doesn't have anything to just mention, nothing to mention on the game, but the shootings, cause there were lots of shootings and massacres, especially a gunman just shoot lots of elementary kids and teachers, and at least 14 people died, and more people gonna die, I think, 14 or 19. And in Buffalo, New York, I think a couple of weeks ago, last week or something, an 18 years old young white man, he just shoot lots of African Americans in African American town, because he drove 300 miles and he had a plan already, and then he shoot lots of people there and killed more than I think 9 people. And one thing I don't understand is that the Texas case, because there were, after the gun shooting broke, the gunman was trying to, just shoot to police officers in the elementary school, and since kids got shot, here or there, some people already died and some people got wounded. What if they bleed a lot? They're gonna die. People can save those kids' lives, when they just, help those kids, as soon as possible. That was doable, but the police officers waited more than 1 hour, 15 minutes or something. They waited there. What they did, they were supposed to get in there and just help those kids, and eventually after people in the classrooms, they just shouted for help, but lots of police officers just waited outside of the building. And later on, they got the special team or whatsoever, and they just killed the gunman. I don't know what the police officers protocols when they had the shootings or something. There were lots of police officers, but they waited one hour, more than 1 hour, for doing, I don't know what they did. I think they could have saved more people, but they didn't. I don't want to just agree when they say they could, because I'm believing that they didn't. Okay, that's what I'm thinking, cause it's kind of a tragedy. Some minor, in criminal matters, if the seriousness of the offense is exceptionally high, the offender may be given a life sentence. Those people gonna get life sentences. I think. I don't know what they're gonna decide. It takes a long time. And it is, they want to just take a look at those cases carefully. So I understand that it takes time. But it takes, few years and more than a few years sometimes. What about the Simpsons case? It took a long time. In the meantime, the bearers or perpetrators, they just stayed, there. They were there. Maybe they were in the, something else. But what if they got, released? They got released by bond. Money talks, right? For example, crimes such as rape, robbery, and murder is of a higher liability due to the seriousness of these offenses. The maximum sentence for a murder charge varies from one national jurisdiction to the other. The death penalty is also a deterrent for offenders. After conviction, harsh punishment is meted out to serious offenders, and short prison time may be handed down to minor offenders. Some minor offenders are made to do that community service rather than going to jail or prison. The time served by each convicted depends on the stipulated time for each offense. It has been suggested from time to time that law in general and criminal laws in particular are needed in conflict-ridden societies, and that the establishment of a political system based on consensus would remove the sources of crime, and therefore the phenomenon itself. In criminal justice administration, prison term is a form of deterrent for offenders. So those things are quite serious. We are supposed to understand what's going on there, and then once we have a mutual agreement, which means we have laws, and we want, whether that is verbal or written, we want to just follow, or local or international, we want to just follow that law, and then the law, we want to just make kind of fine procedures and laws, so there will be no further disputes and arguments after this. Excuse me, sentences. Okay. Civil disputes is disagreement. Civil disputes is a disagreement between two people or organizations or any number of people. So that's also called civil disputes. It is a legal disagreement that can occur as a result of the breach of duty owed by one person to another. Like criminal cases, the state is not the principal party. Okay. Civil disputes involves issues of contracts, negligence. Negligence is just not taking care of elders or children, so they don't feed them well. They don't provide foods or housings properly, and those some parents don't send their kids to schools, and they don't do homeschoolings, or they just let them just stay around there or utilize those kids, their own kids for begging money or something. That happens a lot. There are a whole lot of crazy parents also. So we have to be careful. And civil disputes involves issues of contracts and religions, torts, family law, property law, and libel. And such disputes are resolved by the award of compensation. So I just break the contract and violate the any things on the contract, and they have to compensate. Also, disagreements over drawing up and signing of legal documents can also lead to civil disputes, especially when one party repudiates on the terms and conditions of the contract. Other courts includes the International Court of Justice, which adjudicated on matters between states and other international hybrid courts, who have the responsibility of prosecuting offenders of the most heinous crimes committed during conflicts. Okay, because those things can be happening because of hateness, hatred, for revenge or something others, and there can be lots of things. What about judicial process can be one of the methods resolving conflicts, and next is the peacekeeping. Well, I think this is harder. Peacekeeping is harder because people are going crazy when they want to go crazy. Okay, so peacekeeping is way harder than judicial agreement or things, because when we have laws is working for peacekeeping also, because they're afraid of, they don't want to go to jail, they don't want to just pay a lot of things, and they're gonna get shamed, socially, and but peacekeeping is pretty hard because, as I said, normal people in general, they do something wrong. They do something wrong, and when they are in a group and they tend to make more and serious problems. And peacekeeping, although peacekeeping is not explicitly mentioned in the UN Charter, it is one of the avenues by which the organization maintains peace and security. Yes. So peacekeeping, you know what it is. You can just, you know, think in, you can just imagine that thing um, in your home even, okay? So it is not a means of enforcing peace. We cannot, just push others to keep peace. We can just do a little bit, but it's not enforcing peace. Over the years, the range of the tasks assigned to peacekeeping operations has expanded significantly in response to shifting patterns of conflict and to best address threats to international peace and security. Peacekeeping can be described as involving actions to prevent, contain, moderate, or terminate hostilities between states or within a state by an organized multinational force comprising soldiers, police and civilians deployed in the conflict area with the approval of the parties involved, or at least the consent of one party and the toleration of the other. Consequently, the parties involved in a dispute by agreeing on the presence of the United Nations peacekeeping forces on their nation territories show their willingness to avoid military confrontation. Yes, so they don't want military confrontation, so they are trying to keep the peace. But who knew that? Actually, lots of countries expected Russia's invade, the war between Russia and Ukraine, because there were tensions for last years, and eventually those two countries just had really different ideas on the NATO and on the land, on the something like that. So actually, Ukrainians and Russians, people-wise and then race-wise, for example, they are same people, but they are killing each other right now. And others, I don't want to say other countries are enjoying it, but they are taking advantage of the war happening in Russia and Ukraine. They got disadvantages because they cannot import. Russia and Ukraine used to export the flour, the wheat. That's massive because Ukraine has really nice, especially Ukraine has really nice land for very, very good soils. So they used to, export lots of wheat to all over the world. So, prices are going higher. But who are paying for that? The consumers. But some countries are taking advantage of the wars. So they are watching. They are trying to support, this country or that country, but they cannot just, express. I'm gonna just have this, my country is helping this country. Russia, my country is helping Ukraine. They cannot say that because this world is, linked like this. So we have, trade between with Russia. We have trade with Ukraine. So what if we just, support one country and the other country will not support my country? Okay, then I'm gonna just get disadvantages from that. Oh well, and many other hidden things are happening. I know a little, just a little. I know just a little bit, but people are crazy. People are crazy. Sometimes we think, wow, what kind of people are there? What people are there? Articles 1 to 3 agrees with the UN peacekeeping principle on consent of the parties for peacekeepers to contain or terminate hostilities during conflicts. But that is effective as long as countries are willing to follow. Peacekeepers are meant to be impartial. They are expected to take sides with either of the parties involved in the dispute, except in situations of self-defense and defense of the mandate. They are not required to use force as to ensure continued escalation of the conflict. How to make the conflict, lower the conflict or tension or something, okay? So peacekeeping, as I told you, it is not easy at all. Judicial agreement can be easier, but the peacekeeping is not easy because we want to work for our benefits. We don't want to. We all want altruists. We are not working for others. But basically, people do work for others as long as they can get benefits. So, I can make the pens for teachers, and students can benefit. But why I make the pen? For making money. Okay. Well, that is for teachers and students and education, but at the same time, it is for my money. If I, don't want to make money or financial deficits, by making these pens, I will stop. And people all do. People all will stop it. So when they lose their benefits from this and that, they're not going to do something good for others. So that's what's happening in general. 99% I think. Peace agreements. A peace agreement is a form between warring parties, which addresses the disputed incompatibility either by settling a part of it or by clearly outlining a process for how the warring parties plan to regulate the incompatibility. So peace agreements, that's not happening between people, countries and companies. So after in the World War II, our country, the U.S., America just bombed, bombed Japan, nuke. So they gave up and they just reached to peace agreements. And those two bombs could have ended the war, and Japan just yielded to the world, and those things happen in peace agreements. After that, you're gonna have a peace agreements. Don't make any military things for invading others. Only for defense, for defending your country. That's it. That's what Japan had that position for, I think, for almost 70 or 80 years. But now they are trying to change their law, and they are trying to build the military power for wars with other countries. So, yeah, they are trying to change the law like that. So I don't know what they're gonna do, but it's not like what they used to do in the past. And they were nasty and they were evils in this world because they killed lots of people and they just mistreated women as sexual slaves for long times, and they um, pulled get lots of they got lots of young men or old men for mining, or lots of people died in their countries for building, this and that for mining. So those were very bad. The United States Nations has a mandate for peacekeeping, as stated Article 33 of the Charter. The Charter states that the parties can resort to other peaceful means of their own choice. Sometimes, when states want to resolve their intra and interstate conflicts through peaceful means, they negotiate for a peace agreement. Peacemakers can contribute to the termination of a conflict so as to prevent recurrence of conflict. Okay. That's what where is that? That's what what is this? And okay. We want to just talk about, and the next one is amnesties. Before the amnesties, you will watch this for understanding what the amnesties is for. So we're gonna just take a look at Amnesty International history. So it takes, I think, 10 minutes to watch this. So let's take a look. And well, it's not working properly, so I want to just exit and let me see. Let me show you with YouTube, okay? Because I just found it. And
sitting on the tube reading a newspaper, the Daily Telegraph, when one particular paragraph caught my attention. It related how 2 Portuguese students had been sentenced to terms of imprisonment for no other offence than having drunk a toast to liberty in a restaurant in Lisbon.
Sorry for that, and let me get rid of this and second, please. Sometimes I don't know, what is it? I think it is frozen or something. Okay. So I'm just trying to show you what the international amnesty is. Let's see. Okay. And sorry for that, and sometimes it takes, you know, yeah, I'm just doing the most primitive way, and let me see. Okay. We can get started from the beginning, and we wanna just watch this because it is important. Here we go.
From November 1960, I was sitting on the tube reading a newspaper, the Daily Telegraph, when one particular paragraph caught my attention. It related how two Portuguese students had been sentenced to terms of imprisonment for no other offence than having drunk a toast to liberty in a restaurant in Lisbon. This was during the dark days of the Salazar regime. Perhaps because I'm particularly attached to the concept of liberty, perhaps because I'm fond of wine myself, this news item produced a righteous indignation in me that transcended normal bounds. 6 months later, I published an article in The Observer called The Forgotten Prisoners, which was reprinted simultaneously in many of the world's influential papers. As I remember, that article began with these words: "Open your newspaper any day of the week and you will find a report from somewhere in the world of someone being imprisoned, tortured or executed because his opinions are unacceptable to his government." This is where the first office of Amnesty International was set up. The basement room overflowed with material, and upstairs we continued to receive letters from all over the world, letters of support and encouragement. This made it possible for us to think that we could turn the 1 Year campaign into a continuing international movement.
In that first year, 7 countries joined the new international movement. During the 1960s, Amnesty produced a number of reports on the oppressive prison conditions in different countries. A report on Aden of allegations of brutality by British interrogators caused a furore.
I think that governments are very much like individuals, in the sense that they like to be liked. And governments are, I think, increasingly sensitive to international public opinion.
By 1970, there were 27 countries around the world with amnesty groups, and 2,000 prisoners were under adoption. When Amnesty produced a damning report on torture in Brazil, the government banned any mention of the organization in the country's press.
An urgent action appeal brings protest against the death sentences from members all around the world.
Well, I think that's all I can show you today. Sorry about that. I want to just recommend to see the amnesty thingy, so you want to understand what's going on there. And okay. Okay. All right. So amnesties. So when something really bad happens in a country, but the country cannot take care of it. Or the country kind of mistreated some people or group, or company, just usually which is related with human rights, and they just mistreated a group of people, and who's gonna take care of that? Okay, the country will not take care of these things, these people, and torturing those people, and those people have no power to use to get help from other countries or something. And then Amnesty Internationals, they can work together the worldwide, so they can just let this thing have shows and unveil that kind of mistreatment to those people, and they just work together for liberating those groups of people. Okay, so that's what Amnesty is doing. Amnesties are used by state. So amnesties are used by states to quell rebellion or to put an end to a conflict. Okay? The use of amnesties to quell dissent or to put an end to a conflict raises various interests, interpretations, and concerns as to making offenders accountable for their crimes. Okay, because so those people are weak, so they have no power to let people know. But the international amnesties, they just work together for that incidents or that misfortunes or whatever. Okay, the injustice, so they can work together for that. The international community also expects states to fulfill their legal obligations by ensuring prosecutions of gross violations and the most serious crimes. So they just press that country or to a certain group of people to do something right, okay, to liberate those people or just provide a certain good stuff to those people. And for example, India is notorious for misusing and abusing the little kids, and they don't send their kids to school, but the mines or mountains, so they just break the stones for construction materials or something. So they are just cracking and breaking the stones with metal hammers with the little kids, 5, 6, 7, 10 years old kids are just breaking the stones, for example. And that is happening not only in India, in everywhere, okay? So UN charters, we are not supposed to misuse or the kids' labors for making money, all right? So people realize that certain companies and countries are misusing their kids, the little kids, for making money instead of sending those kids to school. So some countries and some companies, they don't buy their products. Because, for example, in the United States, we are not supposed to do it. So some companies have other countries to do it. Or somebody told me, Levi's, was doing that or still is doing that, I don't know. But somebody told me, certain companies just have other countries to misuse their kids, and they don't want to take responsibilities. So people like a fair trade. Fair trade means I will pay more, a little bit more for buying coffee or blue jeans or whatsoever. But don't your company don't work with those other countries and other companies who are misusing little kids. Well, in the United States, we have minimum wage, right? Minimum wage, like $15 an hour. Depends on the countries and cities, counties. We have certain minimum payment, right? Which means we want to secure those people's living. They have to eat, they have to wear their clothes, they have to wear their shoes, they have to enjoy their life a little bit. That's the minimum wage. But what about other countries? If other countries don't have any minimum wages, then they can pay very low. Well, all companies want to pay low. Okay? So they can, maximize their profits. And labors are, major expenses. So they don't want to just pay certain money, but depends on the countries, they have their own minimum wages. I mean, even though they don't, fix it or, calculate it. So some companies like Starbucks, that's what I was told, they want to just pay certain money for the coffees, and the coffee farms are supposed to pay their employees certain amount of money or guarantee the at least kind of a minimum wages for those people. All right, because it is feeling guilty if they don't pay properly. So states can introduce it when they want to move from stages of conflicts into future free of authority atrocities. Amnesties can also prevent offenders from serving punishment for their crimes. Governments sometimes establish truth commissions which include amnesties, or they can negotiate peace agreements or with the inclusion of amnesties for state and non-state actors. And those things are applicable. Well, we took a look, lots of, some methods and ways of resolve the conflicts. Well, we cannot avoid our conflicts as long as we are living in this earth. Well, maybe it's going to be same to Mars, on Mars, and it's going to be same to on the moon, because we human beings are so greedy, and we want to work for ourselves, not for others much. So there can, and we don't see the same thing, and we don't have the same mind. We don't have the same thinking and opinions. So there can be conflicts always, right? So based on that, we have to think about how we're gonna do it, how we're gonna take care of it. Okay. Well, we cannot avoid the conflicts, but we are trying to prevent it. And once we have conflicts, and we can just try our best to resolve the conflicts. That's what this class is designed for. So hopefully, I think we could understand what the conflicts are we are facing, and what kind of conflicts we can have in the future, and how we can resolve those conflicts for peace. Okay, it is always hard to resolve the conflicts than making conflicts. but we human beings are supposed to just take care of those as much as we can, because we are human beings. Even animals can resolve their conflicts by killing, by beating, or by fighting, but we want to just resolve the conflicts also. Okay? And I think that's it, and thank you for taking this class, and hope you enjoyed this class.